wherever you may be. Welcome back for another edition of the Seahawks Playbook Podcast. Join your host, Bill Alvstad, and co-host, sports writer and football analyst Keith Myers as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, Seahawks fans. Welcome into the Seahawks Playbook Podcast. I pushed the record button before Keith was quite ready. Sorry about that, buddy.
It all works. Let's do it. Do it.
We will talk about anything that you want to talk about in this show because it's our show. And
all right. No,
I was make stuff up as we go.
We had that comment asking about if playing in Mile High could be what's part of what's hurting Russ. After our last show when we talked about how Russ is doing now that he's in Denver. And I was wondering if you wanted to approach the physics of that topic, because it's less interesting than you made it sound in your response. So
well, we did have a question pop up. Yeah, we can talk about that.
I think ultimately the answer is no. Because yes, the air is thinner. That's why you see pitchers that do well outside of Denver suck in Denver, and hitters that are great in Denver have a much harder time outside because the air is thinner. And so there's a lot of physics involved in that. You're going to see kickers be able to kick the ball longer and all of that, which sounds like I should be saying yes, that might be a thing. The difference comes into these are touch throws. These aren't maximum velocity throws. And you have to adapt for that in every game, because in every game, the wind is different, the conditions are different. And if you can throw the ball at sea level and then throw the ball in Texas and deal with the different wind conditions, especially when you got wind in your face one quarter and then it's at your back the next, and you adapt to that, adapting to the thinner air on these touch passes, it's nothing. You can look at that as like when they have golf events up there in that area. Everyone gets 10 free yards on their drive, which is nice for everyone. But then, it doesn't take much for them to adjust to the distance issues with their short irons when they're hitting those approach shots and you're swinging at 3/4 velocity and it's all touch shots. Those still land where you want them to. They still roll where you want them to. And the thin air doesn't affect that. So I really think it's in that range that no, the mile high air is not to blame for the struggles of one Russell Wilson so far this year.
Interesting. Cool. Well, thanks for answering that question for our listener on YouTube. So today's show is the preview of the Cardinals visiting the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday. It's the 6th game of the season. Both the Cardinals and the Seahawks are 2-3 heading into this game, currently tied for last place in the NFC West. Which 2-3 team so far, Keith, just to start off with the general conversation, is the better team of these two?
That is not an easy question. I would say Arizona's played the harder schedule, and thus they might be the better team just based on that. Seattle's had a pretty easy road with both Atlanta, Denver, and Detroit all on their schedule in these first 5 games. And so I'd say that it might be Arizona from that, but Arizona's got some serious flaws. This is not a complete team. This is not the team we saw the last couple of years come out of the gate, 8-0 and 10-0. This is a flawed team, and they are not the Arizona team that we're used to.
They've got a really fairly poor defense, and their offense has been poor so far, and the offensive line hasn't improved any over the course of the last year or two, and they just lost 3 of their starting running backs in this last game. They're going to have some struggles there, finding somebody to carry the ball for them, including just getting guys off the street, literally.
And they've only got one wide receiver on the roster that of note. Right. Yeah, I mean, it just hasn't been a good year for Arizona. They're definitely having a down year. They're going to give Seattle a run for their money at finishing last in this division.
I would say that these teams are somewhat on equal footing only because of that strength of schedule that you'd mentioned. They went to, and their first game was against the Kansas City Chiefs at home, and I went to that game, and it was awful. It was awful.
Yeah.
They just didn't look like a professional football team, and Kansas City walked in there and just basically did anything that they wanted to do on offense. I think Patrick Mahomes had 5 touchdowns in that game. Kelsey had well over 100 yards and 10 or 11 receptions, etc. I mean, it was just a bloodbath. And really, the Cardinals, it was 44-21. The Cardinals scored late a couple different times just because it was irrelevant. And then they faced the Raiders. They beat the Raiders, actually. And then they lost to the Rams. They won against the Panthers, and then they lost last week against the Eagles. And they had a chance with a last second field goal to tie that game 20 apiece, and they missed that kick, and they went down to defeat. So they come into Seattle kind of hungry, I would imagine. Expectations were high on them this year. I live here in the desert now, and there was certainly a lot of talk, especially after Kyler Murray got his extension, and the coaching staff and the general manager as well, that things were going to be improved incrementally from last year. They kind of limped into the playoffs last year. Expectations were that they could get even further this year. It just has not materialized at all.
I wonder about those expectations, because
they were high.
I thought this was a diminished team coming into this.
Me too.
Not a better team. I mean, their best pass rusher, Chandler Jones, is now a Raider. Their best receiver is suspended. Their second best receiver from last year, Christian Kirk, is now in Jacksonville. Yes, they added one to replace those two. AJ Green is another year older, and he only has 8 receptions through 5 games now, which will tell you how ineffective he's been. Zach Ertz is another year older, although he's continuing to play well. He just has not looked as uncoverable as he has at times early in his career. And I didn't see a lot of ads. I didn't think they had a special draft. I think there's a lot of things to worry about. I don't understand the higher expectations for a team that lost considerable talent.
I agree. I think that a lot of pressure was placed on Kyler Murray to take a step forward. He still has some maturity issues as far as I'm concerned, and just doesn't handle himself well at certain times during pressure situations in games. Mm-hmm. And
he's fun to watch, though.
He is fun to watch. No, this is a fun team to watch occasionally.
He is a young Russell Wilson in terms of his ability to extend plays forever, run around in circles and make defenders look foolish, and then find someone open downfield. He is frustrating to have your team play against, because you think you've got a sack and somehow it turns into a 30-yard gain. Like I said, like a younger Russell Wilson, like we were used to that. But he does need to kind of mature into his role as, the face of the franchise and the team leader and all of that. And I think this offseason certainly didn't help him. All these contract negotiations and all of the posturing and all of the stuff, it kind of looked like he didn't spend this offseason working on getting better. He spent the offseason worrying about his contract situation and trying to get traded. And he didn't take that step forward that he needed to.
The team's been struggling to score points this year. They're not horrible, but they're not the greatest. They're middling. They're, top 15, top 20 type offense still. So they do have some ability, although they're down those running backs now. They seem to be edging towards being one-dimensional here. We'll find out. Their defense is horrible, just like the Seahawks. They've allowed 123 points, second in the division, only to the Seahawks at 154 points allowed overall. And this is going to be a very interesting game. I think these teams look very similar when they get out on the field, able to march the ball down the field, and it's a matter of who finishes in the red zone and who keeps the ball, doesn't turn it over. On the defensive side, Seattle's got some real problems. We've talked about that extensively. They're ranked virtually in the bottom 2 teams defensively in almost every statistical category that you can muster. And it's just not good.
Detroit. Yep.
Right.
It's all of the defensive problems that Arizona's had, even playing against the Chiefs and giving up all those points, they've still been better statistically than Seattle has.
Yes.
I mean, Seattle gave up 45 points to Detroit and, 1 million yards and all of that. And Detroit turned around the next week and got shut out by the Patriots, which aren't a great team in themselves. They're not a juggernaut. They're just, a borderline playoff team, and they shut out Detroit. So that's the same team that scored 45 on Seattle. So it comes down to whose defense plays the least worst, right? The least bad, right. And makes it play.
And I'm telling you, I have a high degree of confidence going into this game for Seattle to continue to have success with Geno Smith in this game. Seattle's going to be able to. That matters. Seattle's going to be able to run the ball. They've got 2 really good, solid running backs in Ken Walker and DJ Dallas that are going to be able to take the load of the carries. Travis Homer's now out. But with Walker being able to receive out of the backfield and so forth, I think he's going to get the lion's share of the touches in this game, and he's going to carry a workload. We're going to actually see him just all of a sudden emerge and get 15 to 20 touches in this game, no problem.
Oh, I think it's going to be far more than that. Could be. He'll probably get 20 carries and an additional 5 receptions.
It depends on the flow of the game. And if we fall behind, you got to throw that out the window. But if we have the lead and we hold that lead into the third quarter, yes, absolutely.
Or if it's in a 1-score game, he's going to be the guy. There's no Rashad Penny. He's on injured reserve. There's no Travis Homer to come in on 3rd down and take snaps away from him. He's on injured reserve. It's DJ Dallas who's in there as a special teams guy and will be kind of a change of pace, person to kind of fill in there when needed. He's not going to take away a ton of snaps away from Walker. This is Walker's show.
Yeah, and then we've got a third guy, Tony Jones Jr., who's up on the roster. Darwin Thompson had some carries in the preseason. Godwin Abuaki is also on the practice squad as far as being a running back. But Tony Jones Jr., second year out of Notre Dame, is 5'10", 5'11", 215 pounds. So he's got good size to him.
But no speed,
no speed, no agility.
Not a great athlete. He doesn't have the top end speed that you see by the other backs in Seattle. Doesn't have great agility numbers in terms of his combine stuff. He's in his 2nd year, and he's a guy that you look at his college tape, and he would try to run around people, and he doesn't have the athleticism to do that. He needs to learn how to, run through people. Which he does at times, or at least he did in college, but not enough. He needs to throw all of the attempts at making people miss out, because he's going to fail at this level, and just try and run through people, be a short yardage guy.
He does 2 things that Pete Carroll loves. He blocks well in pass protection, and he doesn't give up the ball when he does get his opportunities. I think he had 250 carries in college, something like that, without a fumble.
Yep.
So that's his attribute.
And he also, even though he pass blocks well, he doesn't receive the ball well. He's got kind of stone hands as a catcher. So that makes it a little harder, because if you have him in there on a passing down and they don't blitz someone, well, what do you do with him? You run him out in a pattern and then take the chance of him dropping a pass. So yeah, I mean, we won't see much of him, right? We both know that.
So Seattle's offense is number 1 overall in DVOA, Keith.
I know they are.
Isn't that crazy? Now we're 31st overall in DVOA on defense, but overall, when you blend them together, the weighted DVOA for the entire team is 9th in the NFL. That is crazy to me. That means our offense is really gelling, and Geno Smith has exceeded expectations on every level. It's kind of fun to watch, really. Geno's had some of those plays and those passes and moving around in the pocket and making good decisions. I'm really enjoying watching Geno Smith.
Yeah, he's done well this year. And against this defense that struggles to rush the passer, he's Geno's going to have time. He's going to be able to, set up, deliver the ball, survey the field. I mean, he's going to look good in this game. And I think Seattle's going to put up some points. I also think that Kyler Murray is going to make people look foolish on the other side of the ball. And Arizona's going to put up some points.
I think this is a game that Arizona has circled on the schedule as a get right game. They're thinking that this is an opportunity for their offense to kind of work out some of the stuff that's kind of been holding them back, and really kind of unleash Kyler Murray, allow him to move around. We really don't have a defense that's built to stop him. Obviously, we saw Taysom Hill run all over the place. That run pass option stuff is not good for this defense. This defense it'll be very interesting to see what happens with that.
Well, one of the things that the Seahawks did do, although, as they were trying to figure out the new scheme and the new personnel and all of that, was they did want speed on defense. So Nuasu and Mafe, even Taylor, who, both the middle linebackers, there's a lot more speed on this defense than there used to be. And that will give them an opportunity to chase down Kyler Murray as he tries to get to the edge and that kind of stuff. But, he's still going to make people look foolish and deliver the ball. He's still going to, Seattle's secondary, other than Tariq Woolen, hasn't been good enough. And you ask these guys to cover for 6-7 seconds, and they're not going to hold up. People will get open. And Kyler Murray has the ability to run around and give his receivers that much time.
This could be an interesting game, though, because I do see Seattle improving a little bit as far as just pressures. They're not getting to the quarterback as often as we'd like them to, but I think if they can dial up some packages this week, this would be the time in the season where I think you start being a little bit more creative and getting out of you're obviously not getting it done with a 4-man pass rush. You might as well go ahead and send a guy now and again. You've got some pretty decent coverage, at least on one side with Tariq Woolen. Let's go ahead and take a couple of chances if we need to each game and see if we can affect, getting to the passer, disrupting some timing.
And the coverage on tight ends got better this last week with the insertion of Ryan Neal at strong safety. And he
played every snap.
He's going to have his work cut out for him against Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is showing his age, but he's still Zach Ertz. He's still second on this team in receptions, and
Trey McBride as well.
Yeah, so it's not it's not an easy assignment for him. But I'd much rather have him out there in coverage than Josh Jones from what we've seen so far this year.
All right, so tell me about a few players. Doesn't matter, offense, defense, that you're really keying in on today from the Seattle Seahawks that you're kind of excited to see against the Cardinals.
Actually, one of the guys that I'm really looking forward to, I mean, obviously there's Ken Walker, right? Because we're going to get to see him extensively for the first time, this year, because he's had a few touches here and there, but it's been the Rashad Penny show up until this point. But I'm also looking at the possibility of a guy like Noah Fant breaking out and really getting an opportunity to put up some yards, and Eskridge, who's only got 22 total yards between rushing and passing so far this year. At some point, he's going to get integrated into this offense better, and he's going to start getting balls thrown to him. He's too athletic and too shifty and too quick to continue to be overlooked. And at some point, he's going to start getting yards if he can stay healthy. And I think against this defense, this might be the time to do it, because they don't have the bodies to cover 3 receivers. They can maybe shut one down. The second one's going to, have a big day. And that third one's going to have a major advantage talent-wise and be able to get open. And I think that's going to be where we see a guy like Dwayne Eskridge finally step up and make some, have some meaningful contributions.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that'll be fun. I just watched a little interview on Seahawks.com with Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross being interviewed. That's fun to watch. Those guys are kind of fun. I fell in love even more with Abe Lucas when he said he was a heavy metal fan. He said that isn't very well liked in the locker room. And one guy came up to him and complained about the music he was listening to. And he was like, come on, man, it's Iron Maiden. Everybody likes Iron Maiden. And apparently not in the Seahawks locker room. But that's fun. I just like that fact. It just, I mean, he kind of fits that mold. If you look at him and you hear him talk, and he's just like, he's no nonsense, and I really like that about him.
Yeah. And the fact that he will come out and he'll tell that story and that kind of stuff just shows that he's got like some charisma, right? He's not going to talk in cliches and all of that. He's going to be real, but at the same time be funny. And I love that when the interview, you don't get to hear from the big bodies up front very often.
Oh, you should have heard the other one. So the other story he told was about being a freshman in college. And he talked about the hazing that kind of went on there. And he was like, yeah, all the freshman linemen, we get our heads shaved. It's kind of humiliating. But, I went out there and I went on social media and showed my head. And he said, but that's not going to happen here. And I was like, dude. And they asked the same thing about Charles Cross. So did anything like that happen to you? He said, I'm not talking.
Yeah.
So he was, I think maybe that was smart. I foresee some sort of event happening to Abe Lucas this year.
I don't actually. The type of stuff that happens to rookies in the NFL happens during training camp, and it usually has to do with them spending money on food for their teammates. Yeah. They don't tend to do anything else. I mean, they make guys carry pads and that stuff in after practice.
Fetch water. Yeah.
But they don't get into shaving people's heads, and nothing really happens ever after the start of the season. It's all just training camp fun. And if a guy is really like mad and angry about it, everyone backs off, because that's not the point. The point is, to integrate them into the team and make them feel like a part of things, not to make them feel like they're not a part of things.
One of the other interviews I saw today was Richard Sherman interviewing Marshawn Lynch. And oh my goodness, that was something. And you got to go see it. It's one of those things I can't even describe, wouldn't even want to. I just can't. It's one of those things you just got to watch and hope that you understand like 25% of what Marshawn's saying, because there's a lot of it there where it's just like he's talking to Richard. Richard kind of gets it, but man, nobody else could get it. But
because they're talking. There's an insider knowledge there. So
there is. Yeah.
They can refer to things. And
one word that doesn't mean anything to anybody is a key word to the.
Well, yeah, and they're looking at people are going to be like trying to interpret and whatever, but it's guessing. Whereas those guys, they know. They've been teammates. They know what they're talking about. They have this thing.
One of the things that they did talk about, Keith, that I thought was really interesting, kind of pointed to our show that we did on Russell Wilson, is that Marshawn came out and in support of Russell Wilson and thought it would be a good idea for him to reach out to him, just not as a football player, but as a human being, just to make sure he's okay. And I thought that was totally a class act,
Yeah.
And he said it more than once too. He was like, he came back to it a couple times. And so,
well, I mean, you look at Marshawn. Marshawn's got this bad rap nationally because he wouldn't talk to the media, and that pissed some people off. So they spent their, a chunk of their career trying to make Marshawn look bad. But Marshawn's been a guy that, one, he's incredibly real. When he's mad, he's mad. When he's happy, he's happy. There's nothing fake about Marshawn. Everything that he is feeling in that moment, it's there. And it comes out in times when he is, on the streets of Oakland, taking care of people and, doing stuff like that. Or when he found out that Oakland was losing their team. And so he decided to play 1 year for the Raiders in Oakland, just to give the fans there something to cheer about. And he does a lot of stuff for other people that nobody sees.
Yeah. He came back to Seattle for Pete Carroll.
Yeah. He did. And this was after what looked like a very rocky breakup and him flipping off the sideline and all of that. No, Pete Carroll reached out to him and there were no hard feelings from either side. They were just like, yep, we need you. And are you willing to come in and help us out? And he was. And I love it. I mean, I get that
he admitted the fact that he needed them just as much.
Yeah. I mean,
which was interesting.
Marshawn, I have so much respect for that dude. Like just so much respect for that dude. And it's a lot of it is because he's just a real guy. He's just we comparing him to Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is so polished. He speaks in cliches and all of that stuff. He's so polished that he comes off at times as entirely fake. Yeah. And you don't know what he's really thinking. He won't let you. Nothing's ever bad. All of that. Marshawn's the opposite of that.
Right.
He's not going to lie to you. He might not talk to you, but he's not going to lie to you. And it's really hard to not just respect someone who is going to be authentically themselves at all times.
Yeah, I think you would be tickled at this interview. You should check it out. Just look it up.
Oh, I'm going to. Absolutely.
Okay. So you mentioned the offensive side of the ball, a couple, 3 players that you were interested in. How about the defensive side, Keith? Is there anything the defense can do in this game to get right?
I don't know. The running game of this team, other than Murray, is not going to happen because their running backs are all injured. They're signing guys off the street to play. And so that's been the biggest weakness of Seattle, has been their ability to stop the run. And then when they bring everyone up to try and stop the run, now they don't have enough guys in coverage and they get burned for that. So I think the fact that they're going to be more one-dimensional, they're going to be throwing the ball. So you're going to be able to turn your pass rushers loose. You're going to take a guy like Darrell Taylor and let him just go after the quarterback and not ask him to defend the run and cover and all those kind of things. And that's good for him because that's what he does well, right? And what he does well is go forward and get after the quarterback, not go backwards or sideways. And so we're going to be able to see more from him. And honestly, Kobe Bryant's been playing better. He's like gone through some serious rookie growing pains, but last game I thought he played really well.
Physical ball. He's forced 2 fumbles this year already. He's got a knack for the ball. So I like.
Well, and not only just that, but just like his coverage, his ability to be sticky and whatever that he didn't really show in weeks 1, 2, and 3. He's shown the last couple of weeks, which I've been happy with. And Tariq Woolen, who started out great, which I'm still so shocked and surprised by how good he's been so early. Mm-hmm. But he continues to improve. You got to remember, this guy still is learning how to play his position. He's only gonna get better. And so I think there's some things to think about. You got Artie Burns, who's healthy now, should get some playing time opposite Woolen. Maybe Sidney Jones will get some time in there too. A little less Mike Jackson. And I think you can see this as maybe not a get right game, but a get better game, where because Arizona is going to be so one-dimensional and not be able to run the ball like they would like.
James Conner is still listed as questionable. I mean, he's day-to-day. He's got a rib injury. His status will be known more later in the week. The first injury report comes out Wednesday afternoon. And his status will kind of become clearer as we get closer to Friday. And then, Benjamin's the other guy that's able to go, and a guy by the name of Keontae Ingram is their third healthy running back. And then they signed a couple of guys to the practice squad, Corey Clement and Tyson Williams.
So James Conner this year is averaging 3.7 yards per carry. His long carry is 17.
And I think that's primarily because defenses have been able to key in and stack the box against them because of their lack of weapons on the outside.
True, and he's also looked slow.
He's never been fast.
He's never been fast. He's not that kind of runner. He's a big body, run people over kind of guy. And he's looked slow compared to last year. It hasn't been it hasn't been a good look for him so far this year. I don't know if he's been nursed. I mean, he has the rib injury now, but even at the beginning of the year, like you saw him in that first game, like,
or didn't. They didn't.
Oh yeah,
they that fell behind so fast. It was Kyler Murray all the way. But
but even when he did get carries, it wasn't pretty. Like it wasn't. I mean, the offensive line's bad, and that hurts. And the lack of weapons on the outside means that you see a lot of strong safeties in the box. But overall, like he just hasn't had a good year. Benjamin's actually been their best runner, and you've seen recently him getting more carries. He's got 30 carries already on the year for 136 yards, which is a 4.5 yard average. That's significantly better.
He runs hard. He runs hard. He's not the biggest running back out there, but he runs hard.
He does run hard, and he runs behind his blocker as well. He plays smart. He sets up blocks well, cuts up through the hole, and he's not going to be super elusive. He's going to run, all of that, but he's going to get some yards here and there. But overall, I don't consider him to be like a seriously talented back either. This is an offense that just needs skill position players.
Yeah, it's anemic. It really is.
And a week from now, they'll get one. A week from now, they'll get Nuke Hopkins back. And that'll make
available in the 7th week, right? I think that is correct.
So the Seahawks will get to play this version of the Cardinals now, and in 2 or 3 weeks when they play the Cardinals again, they'll play the new look Cardinals with both Nuke Hopkins and Marquise Brown at receiver, and that is going to be a bigger challenge because those guys are. Those guys are legit. That's two guys that can make life difficult for your outside. And if you can't get to Kyler Murray, which is nobody can get to Kyler Murray quickly and all the time because he's just too elusive, those guys will get open. And so it's gonna get, their offense is gonna get better starting a week from now. But right now, playing against Seattle, they don't have any of that stuff. Seattle's it's like I said, it's not a get right game, but they're going to look better this week. I really think they will.
Let's give it up for predictions, Keith. What do you got?
I've got Seattle winning this game 24-17.
Wow. Couldn't have predicted that at the beginning of the year.
No, but
maybe you could. I mean, Seattle wins these games and we usually lose in Arizona. And Arizona's 3-0 on the road this year. Believe it or not.
This has more to do. My prediction has more to do with Arizona, and I just don't trust that offense or defense to do enough to win this game. And I'm not expecting a huge thing from Seattle either, right? I know the defense is bad, but Arizona is that offense that can't quite take advantage of it the way other offenses can. And their defense isn't good. And Geno Smith has been playing way better than anyone expected. Yeah. So I just looking at this game, I don't see Arizona winning, very often. If these two teams right now play 10 times, I would guess Seattle would win 7 or 8 of them.
So a minute ago, I said the Cardinals were 3-0 on the road. They are 2-0 on the road, 0-3 at home. Okay, so they lost to the Chiefs 44-21. Chiefs had a pretty decent defense. They beat the Raiders 29-23. The Raiders don't have a very good defense. They lost to the Rams 20-12. They had a hard time scoring against the Rams defense. And the Rams were able to hold them to 12 points. The Panthers, they were held to 16 points. They held the Panthers to 16, and scored 26. But the Eagles held to 17 points. The Eagles are a complete team, 20-17. This is going to be a close game. I think all games for Seattle this year are going to be close, and it really is one of those who has the ball last, who can outscore the other team's defense, and can our offense outscore teams, because our defense is really just going to, I think, struggle all year to kind of keep points down. So I think that the Cardinals come away with this game. That was a hard game last week for the Seahawks against the Saints. I just felt like, Seattle kind of gave up one there, and maybe there's a little bit of a letdown. And there's something about the Cardinals defense that makes things tough, that makes it harder than usual. And seemingly you should be able to move the ball against them and struggle at times to do that. So I'm going to go 27-17 Cardinals. Wow. Yeah, we fall off a little bit. I know that, Seattle's been putting up points. I averaging over 30 points a game. I just don't see that in this game. I think it's going to be, we may score, in the 20s, but I think the Cardinals are going to be able to score in this game. Probably put up over 30 points on us.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so you're predicting a letdown. That's
a little bit of a letdown. Yeah.
Seattle's played well the last, they're 1-2 in the last 3 weeks, but the offense has played well. The defense has done some okay things, just not enough of them. And at this point, there's a letdown game now that they're home, and they get the score run up on them a little bit.
That's what I feel.
I cannot make a case against you. I'm just looking pure, on paper X's and O's, and a week from now, I think Arizona wins this game handily, because I think they can create enough matchup problems against Seattle that the defense just folds, like they did against Detroit 2 weeks ago. There's just enough matchup problems that the defense just fell apart all over the place.
Yeah, these are tough 5 weeks for the Seahawks. Cardinals visit Seattle, then we have to go to Los Angeles Chargers, and then the Giants come into town. Giants are playing well this year. There's just something about that team now.
They've gone from being poorly coached to well coached.
Very well coached,
and it's amazing. It's what a difference coaching makes.
And an infusion of just that one more year of talent. And then the Buccaneers in Germany, who knows, right? Who knows? And then that's a bye week after that. So these 5 games to me tell the tale of the rest of the season and how the rest of the season goes. If we play well and somehow eke out 3 out of the next 5, I mean, who knows what can happen with the rest of the year? And we may end up backing into this all of a sudden weak NFC West conference.
Because you're at 5-5 with 7 games to go, and you're looking at, okay, what can we do to put to put a run together and make the playoffs? Because the NFC is not strong. There's not a lot of good teams. You're looking at Green Bay and San Francisco as probably the best 2 teams in the conference, and there just isn't a lot behind them.
So let me I'm just going to run through the schedule just really quick. So we've got Cardinals, Chargers, Giants, Cardinals, Bucks, Raiders, Rams, Panthers, 49ers, Chiefs, Jets, Rams. That's a tough schedule. I mean, there's two games in that entire schedule that we should be favored, maybe. And everything else is either a draw or we're going to be.
It's going to be this week and the Jets.
Yeah, and the Panthers possibly.
Maybe. Yeah.
And Matt Rule was just fired.
So we'll see what happens to them and whether that team goes in the tank or not.
But all the other games, even the Jets are well coached. Who knows? That's the January 1st. I don't know where the Seahawks are going to be at that point. If they're fighting, then maybe that's a competitive game. If not, the season could be over by the time, if you've got 7 or 8 losses in the next 10 weeks.
The Jets are a much better team this year. That doesn't make them good, but they are not the pathetic rollover that they've been in the past. They are a much better team, and Robert Saleh has done a great job getting those guys to buy into what they're doing. I still think there's a talent deficit, but they're now, again, this is a team that's gone from poorly coached to well coached here in a couple of years. And that team is on the right trajectory. The same, it's very similar to what we were saying about Detroit. I love what Dan Campbell's been doing in Detroit.
Yeah. It's funny, after they beat they lost to the Seahawks, but we ran up tons of points there. They got shut out in the very next game.
Yep.
That's the crazy NFL, isn't it?
It is, but I think also for them, that was a bit of a letdown game, because you put up 45 and lose. It's hard to get up and ready for that next game. after you put up 45 and lose. So
Yeah.
I think that
Well, that's why I'm looking at the Seahawks going, you put up 32 points and still didn't do enough on defense.
Put up 32 points and lost by a touchdown. So you're absolutely right. This could absolutely be a letdown game for Seattle, and just where they just come in and let a team that they should be competitive with just walk all over them. And then they get a gut check and they come out the following week with more fight. But
yeah. Anyway, all right, let's get out of here. Had a great week. Good shows, Keith. Thanks for all the conversations and analysis and all that good stuff. You can find Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. You can find me at NWC Hawk. You know where the show's at. Find us on our Seahawks Playbook YouTube channel. And make sure you hit the subscribe button and share it with all your friends and family. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NWCHawk, Keith is at Myers NFL, and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.